Welcome to Indian River Connections, connecting people and places. I'm your host, John Corapi, one of the hosts of the TGI NOW Podcast. I'm here with my good friend and editor and chief of Sunshine Journal.
Yes.
Thomas Kenny, a.k.a. Thomas Augustus.
Good to see you, John.
How you doing, buddy?
This is awesome.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming.
Mike back there on the controls. This is fun.
I got Mike from To the Point Podcast back there on the controls, like you said, and making the recordings and doing a great job. And so this is our second interview.
Oh, really?
We did one with Cap's Pizza.
That was awesome, by the way.
Yeah, we did. It was a good.
That was a really good highlight.
Yeah, it was a good highlight. So we're trying to build that and connect people with places. So we figured we'd bring you in. You have some insight on what you're doing with Sunshine Journal and also with Indian River News as well. Correct?
Yeah, Indian River News back on July 4th. That's when it actually came down, the message.
July 4th.
That it closed.
Wow.
So we purchased Indian River News from Ryan Blade. I want to just commend Ryan Blade for having the tenacity to start a publication that's alternative news source here in Indian River County. Obviously needed. He proved it. And he's doing other stuff now with his life. And he just said, hey, I want to sell this. And I was like, I want to buy it. Let's see what you got here. And so we worked on it, talked about it for a few months, and it closed on July 4th.
Wow.
So independent journalism is here to stay. Celebrated on Independence Day. It's a lot of fun. Taking over the pages over there on Facebook, and a lot of things coming down the road.
Yeah, good, beautiful. What I really want to do in the beginning here is to talk about a little bit of your background, your media background, what you've done in the past with XM, et cetera, things that I'm familiar with, but obviously the audiences and a lot of people in the community are not. So
yeah, so back in, it's about 1999.
Wow.
Moved back to D.C. with my wife from Virginia Beach. We were youth pastors, and went back to school, and I literally went back 8 years after the last time I was in school. I hadn't finished my degree or anything. Right. And George Mason had a program where you can make up your own college degree, and that's what I did.
Tell us about that. I want to know a little bit more about that.
I was in their continuing education department, so you can pull from different disciplines. And basically, I made a media degree, and so I have a bachelor's in broadcast marketing and media analysis. I actually created the title.
Yeah.
I actually created the curriculum. At that time, it was digital media. Remember Flash banners back in the day? Flash, the actual software, and Macromedia and Dreamweaver and all that. So I was taking a lot of those types of courses. That was hip, and kids were like doing keyframes and all that stuff. And I did that and pulled some comm courses in English, and I specialized in my thesis was on copyright, international copyright law.
All right. And then you moved on. Then you went to XM after that, or
I was communications.
Okay.
And at that time, when I graduated, XM approached them. They weren't even live yet.
Okay.
They hadn't even gotten the satellites in the air, but. There was a company called WorldSpace, and WorldSpace is the originators of satellite radio.
I do remember that.
And WorldSpace is over Africa, Asia, South America. They might still have satellites over North America. I don't know.
Okay.
But XM was spun off from WorldSpace, and they wanted to create this platform, and they brought in all these great programmers from around the country who did radio and things like that. And they came to Salem Communications, whom I work for, and that's Christian content.
Okay.
Largest Christian content provider on broadcast in the world and online too. So they said make us 3 channels, and one was talk and 2 were music, pop and rock.
Okay.
And so I was over the rock channel. And we did it in-house at Salem, and then I switched in 2005, renegotiated contract, moved in-house to XM.
Yeah.
And until the merger, I was there.
Yeah, so XM Syria. Yeah, wow.
Yeah,
and then so Christian radio was the other part of what you were doing.
Yeah.
And then XM and Syria.
But I was also producing news shows when called on and things like that. I got to be in a production team of a World Cup when XM hosted the 2006 World Cup from Germany.
Nice.
That was the highlight. I just always have to put that in.
Yeah, no, that's why we do it.
Do the post-game show from DC. It was fun, man.
Yeah, man.
So,
well, it's like I always say in my podcast, and it's practice for what you're doing now.
It always is.
Yeah, it always is. You're always building and growing, and you're trying to figure out what I'm going to do next. And then the next thing you know, you're here in Vero Beach, you're running for school board, you're trying to do different things, you're trying to get in the community, and now you have Sunshine Journal and Indian River News, and you're making a difference in the community by, discovering the truth behind the narrative. And I like what you're doing with that, because what you're bringing is a counter narrative to what we're seeing in the community. What we're seeing with local print shops here in town, local bloggers, as you could say, that are doing certain things. You're bringing a journalism, a real journalism to the table.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I appreciate that compliment. It's funny, when I look back on XM, it was like, I became music director of a channel called The Torch. It's Christian rock.
Okay.
Torch. Carry the torch, But what was really interesting about that is that happened in 2002, and that's when the Winter Olympic Games were in Salt Lake.
Okay, I remember that, yeah.
And there was a process of me becoming that director going on. And I'll never forget this, because I was like, God, what am I doing? What's going on here? And so I come out, I'm going to the Starbucks where I lived, and all these cones are on the street, and they're like directing traffic. And I go I'm just looking, and I go, what's going on up there? What are they doing up the intersection? So I grab my coffee, I go to the intersection, I make a right, and the Olympic torch for the 2002 games is going across the country, and it was going through my town.
Yeah.
And God speaks to me. He says, today I hand you the torch.
Wow.
And so I'm 11 miles from where our studios were, right outside of D.C.
Yeah.
And I go inside, and the program director over the whole operation comes in. He goes, yeah, we're pulling all those operations for music out of Nashville, because Christian Music Central is Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah,
We had studios down there, and Salem did.
Yep.
Music networks there,
Yep.
And we're bringing it in here in House D.C. You're the music director.
Just like that.
And it was like, okay, God, today you handed me the torch. I literally watched the torch go right by.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that. It was on the Salt Lake, and
that's a beautiful thing, and that's the things that people don't realize, is that you're being shown a direction.
Yeah.
And you have to recognize that and see where your talents are going to bring you, and where God's going to put you in a situation, and where you're going to be able to use your talent, use you through him to bring that truth behind the narrative to the community, and what you're doing today.
And that's why I'm really appreciative of Ryan Blade, because I had thought about this for a little while. You see what's going on here in this town in media, and how it's used in different things like that, and stuff, and he showed there was a market for it. He took a risk.
Yes, he did.
He took a bigger, I'm literally coming in behind the risk he took.
The torch.
Right? He just passed it to me, and that's, I was like, wow, this is, I can do this. I'm trained to do this, and I know it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. I mean, the Sunshine Journal is born out of the idea of when you talk politics and government and policy and all this stuff, there's the thing we have in Florida called the Sunshine Law.
Yep.
So that's where that comes from. Ben Franklin was one of the founding fathers of media in our country. Frederick Douglass, who's also on my logo, is a man who who founded the North Star and literally set the course of a nation with it.
Yeah.
And so, and the other side of Sunshine Journal is when I was younger, working in a store, there was always this lady who always called me Sunshine, because I always had a smile on my face. So, that's just a personal thing, and I'm just like, this is what it is. You got to have fun doing this. If you don't, go do something else.
Yeah, that's it. That's what it comes down to. I feel like a lot of people are being called to purpose at this time in the world right now.
Absolutely.
God's calling people to purpose, called me to purpose to start the TGI Now podcast when I went through the things I went through with school board and different jobs and scenarios that pushed me out of the matrix. And same with you, taking on this task of Sunshine Journal. And I always tell people, you ran for school board, and obviously, unfortunately, you didn't win, but you're in a role where I think you're more powerful in your role you're doing now than if you would have won that election. Because you're able to step back. You went into the other side of the velvet rope, and you saw what it was like to politic and see what you're dealing with. You see who the players are, what you're going to go up against, and you decide to say, you know what, I'm going to use my writing skills. I'm going to use that degree that you made for yourself, and put it into motion.
It's all about making it up as you go along.
Right?
I'm just kidding.
I know. But you're right, and I think that was
really about being obedient. As he tells you, what he's made for you.
Yeah, but you have to absorb those downloads that you get from God, and realizing that, hey, this is what I got to do. Because I mean, when I read your articles and I read your pieces, like, I mean, we have some here that we'll talk about, like the recent one here with the Fellsmere PAC for
the Fellsmere city manager writing that, issuing a statement on that PAC.
Yeah.
That said they were a sanctuary city. It's just absolutely not true. It was something to malign a candidate in a campaign. Mm-hmm. And I go into detail about that, where that statement came from, how his statement on Facebook that they quoted on May 22nd aligned with the Trump policy on immigration at the time, per his executive order. Yep. That was back when Trump was basically he was going to deputize local law enforcement to handle immigration policy. Yeah. And they ultimately didn't do that because they realized the amount of funding that would have probably cost. And the city of Fellsmere even recognized that at the time. So just shedding light on these things.
Yes.
And a lot of people get emotional over issues. And I've always found there's always an answer. Yeah. And there's always people using methods to create madness.
Exactly.
And so you understand and I understand. Yep. I think that our role is to stop the madness and reveal the method and give people something just to think about.
Yeah, exactly.
In a very even keel way.
Well, for example, I had one of my neighbors text me and ask me about the sheriff's race, and was like, who you interested in, this, that, and the other, and I was like, and they're asking me about this whole thing with the Fellsmere and the sanctuary city, and right away I was like, no, it's a lie. Like right away, it's the truth behind the narrative, and I think that's what you're bringing to the table, is showing that. Because if you weren't doing this wouldn't be brought to light.
And people, there would be more people like
my neighbor,
your neighbor, going, what the heck's going on? And you're like, well, I don't know.
Yeah, they're like, wait a minute, Touchberry's he's the chief of police in Fellsmere, a sanctuary city. What's going on? That confuses them, so they get confused, and then they're like, wait a minute, should I even vote for this guy? And then the next thing you know, they're voting for somebody that they probably wouldn't have voted for.
Mark Mathis, in his statement, he's like, they impugned us falsely with false allegations.
Wow.
There's a city that's 81% Hispanic. It's been that way. It was that way in 2017 from when they quoted the article all until today. The school is doing really well. The elementary school, Fellsmere Elementary, jumped 2 grades. It's like just below an A right now.
Wow. Yeah.
It jumped from a D to a B in its performance.
It's an A.
It's an A?
That's A.
It is an A. See, that's why you have a producer, Mike.
That's right. To the point, Mike, from To the Point.
Yeah. You've got 2 kids in Fellsmere. Yeah, so they're getting A's too, I bet.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go. So that shows you that, like, before COVID or whatever you want to say, this wasn't, people weren't paying attention to this. They were just like, who are you going to vote for? Who are you going to look at? Now they need something to take a look at, and you do have an opportunity for people to subscribe to Sunshine Journal, correct?
Yes, you can subscribe for free right now. There will be some things we'll be doing in the future that probably be on the paid side only, but you can also pay for it. Paid allows you to look at all the archived articles and different things. Okay. But if you're a free subscriber, just email. It comes to your email, everything that gets produced, every new article that comes out. So and it's done through the Substack platform, so all payments are done through there.
Okay.
It was the easiest way, and it's where media is today. Media is online. I've been talking to people, a lot of the conversation that's surrounding our local election is online.
Okay. Yeah.
It's becoming the center point. Yeah. So, and that's part of what we're doing is just, hey, people go, you're really writing good stuff. This is great. And I go, well, the stories write themselves.
Yeah.
Someone just has to write them. Exactly. And the problem is in this town is no one's writing what the stories are.
Yeah, you're right.
And I've watched it over and over and over again. They write their opinion. I have perspective.
Yeah.
But it's based on the reality that there's fact.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what it comes down to.
There's facts involved.
Yeah.
We're not going to write it up to a point, and then when the facts get inconvenient, we're going to cut them to the floor and not put them in there.
Yeah.
And create our own opinion off of what we're showing you.
Exactly. Again, it's a spinning a narrative, and then you're not going to spin the narrative. So when people are watching this video and they want to learn about Sunshine Journal, realize that there's no spinning the narrative here. You're gonna get facts. You're gonna get the facts that are going to show you what's going on in the community, what you're confused with, because it is in a situation where we are in a confused state of media. People don't know what to believe. Nothing makes sense to people anymore. I get a lot of that now with people like it. This article doesn't make any sense. Like, what is going on here? And there's articles you have here, with the video of the Indian River County, the sheriff's jail, and the girl getting whatever happened with that situation.
She got thrown into a wall by a deputy.
Yeah.
Who the internal affairs report says that it was done in self-defense. I always have a problem with that personally, because I see 4 deputies at all times.
Yeah.
And a nurse who saw the whole thing.
Yeah.
The nurse didn't come over and treat until after they picked her up off the floor. She was down for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
She'll tell you she blacked out.
Yeah,
she was knocked unconscious.
Yeah.
They say in their internal affairs report the video doesn't prove that.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so there's an impasse there as to versions. But why isn't the nurse over there when she's on the floor after going into a wall, knowing there's blood, because someone should have shed it, because she cut her forehead?
Yeah. Why
isn't the nurse over there checking to see if she's concussed?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a valid question.
100%.
Yeah. That's the thing. Media should be asking questions. They shouldn't be telling you what to think.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I was hoping when I got all the information with that story, you can go online, and at the very top is all the linked documentation that I requested. Asked for a very thorough request to get it all.
Yeah.
There's one person in there there's a second video on there where she said she was punched, and it looks like I call it a slam to the face, because it's hard to see the fist or whatever.
Yeah.
But usually when the one deputy, Jeffrey Hiss, who's named in there, was charged, he had a formal charge. They called it a 2531 or whatever. Handling it caused the injury or whatever.
Gotcha.
And he was exonerated for the self-defense. But that she also claimed about the punch, and that person was not charged, nor were they named in the investigation. and
Wow.
if you say there's not enough evidence there, I get it, okay?
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
You don't see it on the video as a punch. You see it as them protecting her from falling over, because she's obviously woozy from hitting the wall.
Yeah.
That's why she's leaning, all her weight's going for her.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's a charge made in a formal complaint from a citizen. Therefore, you have to exonerate that person by naming them, investigating, interviewing if necessary, and exonerating.
Gotcha.
And they didn't do that. I mean, processes, that's what I see. I see processes not followed through on. No other deputy interview was given to me in the public records request, and I asked for all supplemental materials.
Huh.
And so, I look at this and I just say, what's going on here?
Yeah. Now, when stuff like this is being covered, is it being covered by any other media outlets locally for situations like this type of story? Is that?
There have been from time to time, and that doesn't mean people aren't, just because I cover that other people aren't.
Yeah.
There have been other issues in the jail. I know that 32963 Vero News has definitely tried to cover stories. I've seen stuff in the past. They do a lot of police coverage, and most of their police coverage is just straight right off the police reports.
Gotcha.
And that's fine.
Yeah, it's not asking questions.
It's not asking a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I mean, that one's really straight. I didn't interview anybody.
Yeah.
I know the person it happened to, and I have talked with her at length, but I didn't put any of that, what we've discussed, or added any color to it. I just really wanted to share, hey, this is what happened.
Yeah, that's it.
And you need to decide as a reader and as a viewer of the video if this is legit or not.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of those conversations online, and that's what I feel I'm called to do, and that in respect to that story.
All right. And speaking of what you're called to do, what is your your future objectives and goals for the publication moving forward?
It's been crazy because it's like it's sort of taken off, and the fun thing is like with a lot of people who have I go get quotes from people who are running for office, for example, and I tell them, I said, I'm going to send you what your quote is, how it's going to be written. So even though we talked on the phone and I've written it out and I write it back to you, this is what it's going to say. If you're still cool with that, then it's a go.
Gotcha.
And they're like,
I've never seen that before. Why are you sending that?
And that's part of it
didn't happen to me when I was on the front page of the paper. They didn't send the article to me first.
They want it. Really, all they want is, and a lot of reporters do this.
Yeah.
They want to talk to you for one reason only, to say that they talked to you.
Exactly.
And after that,
That's
whether
it.
they use it or not,
Doesn't matter.
because if it doesn't fit their agenda, they're dropping it.
Yeah. That's what I think.
Hey, I know some candidates who've been interviewed by other publications around here for an hour and a half and nothing got used.
Wow.
Why are you talking to someone for an hour and a half?
Wasting their time for an hour and a half. You don't use it because again, it's intention. So your intentions are authentic. You're trying to
and
ask
I feel
questions.
And as much as I serve my readers, I feel like I need to serve. There's a major distrust with media.
Yeah.
Massive. Now, and I understand it. I worked it for 20 years. I used to watch people in the news side at XM who had specific opinions just throw crap to the floor and
That's it.
and give you this like opinion of theirs as to why, and you're just like, man, you need to go back to cotillion or something, get some manners.
Yeah. I mean, that's what because the art is lost. There's no journalism art. There's no asking questions. There's no getting down to it, digging down to get the facts, like you've been saying, and you realize that. So I think what people are starting to realize in the distrust in the media is that they're reading an article of something they're used to reading all the time, say the Press Journal or whatever. They've been reading it for years. I lived here for 40 years. I've read the Press Journal a million times. I don't read it anymore. I only read the headlines to see what the lies are, because you realize that's what it is. They're all just a narrative that they're trying to spin for you. And people are reading it going, this doesn't seem true to me. I got to find another alternative to go to.
Yeah, and so as much as I value people who read my stuff and they develop a trust with me, I also, the people who I talk to, for the stories, I need to build that same type of trust.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not just about me and my readers. It's about me and the whole community.
Yeah.
And the whole community, building back up a trust to where it can function properly.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's what media is supposed to do, in my view.
Yeah. No doubt. And like you said, Ryan Blade forged the path for you. He saw a niche in the community. He saw something that was like, I got to counter this narrative at some point. At the school board meetings, you ran for office, you did lots of interviews, you saw the kind of questions they asked. You were able to see it to where it brought you to the point where you were like, okay, well, I can see myself doing this, but I'm going to get to the bottom of it. I'm going to grow this to where people can trust what I have to say and go to the Sunshine Journal to really see the truth that you're uncovering, shining a light on it.
Yeah, and that's all I do. I mean, when I ran for school board, it was funny because everybody was using the DeSantis picture. I have a DeSantis picture from when he decided to run.
Yeah.
He came to a dinner and my mother-in-law hosted it through the Republican Executive Committee, and I actually ran the microphones for her. So I have this picture of him, but I didn't use it.
Yeah.
I don't need
No.
I don't need to pull cheap political stunts at a photo op
No.
just to get another point or two.
And you ran a good campaign,
And
and there's no regrets on that.
But the funny thing is I had I'm trying to remember who it was in the media saying I was endorsed by DeSantis. Jackie Rosario and I were sort of running hand in hand because we think alike on a lot of issues. And so they wrote, I was endorsed by, I sent them a text. I said, you need to retract that now. He goes, well, I don't think it's untrue. I go, you want to have a phone call? I go, no, I don't want to have a phone call.
Yeah.
It's wrong.
Yeah. Well, that's it.
And I go, by the way, I've never even I have a picture of DeSantis and myself, and I'm not even using it.
Right.
I go, that may be stupid, but I think Terry Berenborg used one. Said she's for the DeSantis agenda. Is she doing the DeSantis agenda? No, her and her husband are endorsing Peggy Jones at the moment.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the truth behind the narrative that you're getting to and what you're bringing to the table with Sunshine Journal. And for people listening, this is Indian River Connections, and people are watching that. We're bringing people and places together, and and these are opportunities for you to go to Sunshine Journal, subscribe. I urge you to subscribe because it's a good piece of writing that Thomas does. He's very, very very good at writing. I mean, I enjoy reading everything he does because he does get down to the truth, and he does try to find the little niches that aren't being filled in the local news, and that's what people are looking for.
Well, speaking of places and local niches, we're in Rio Coco here up at the airport. And this is like place. when I moved to Vero Beach. I always go into towns looking for the coffee house.
And this is a great.
And this is the one I found. And it's actually expanding in one of their big rooms right now. They have these meeting rooms that are just awesome, and the Bagby family's awesome, and the Nazaro family, all their kids were here when my friend who moved here after I did met his wife, who was manager, Laura Ruhlman now.
Okay.
When Laura was manager, and so, this place is like special to me, and I love it. And the coffee's awesome.
It's a great place. I had a smoothie.
I'm drinking Global Jones for all you people.
There you go. And I had a smoothie. Mike from To The Point behind the micro.
Mike is now a regular customer. First time he's been here.
First time he's been here. So
how'd you like the iced coffee, sir?
Better than Starbucks.
Of course.
Better than Starbucks.
Because it wasn't burnt.
That's right. So just to give you a little overview of Rio Coco, and thank you for letting us be here, and we hope to use this again more often. They're dedicated to providing you with the best coffee, the most delicious, nutritious food, the friendliest service, and a peaceful atmosphere. In addition, we take our profits and fund 9 schools along the Rio Coco in northeast Nicaragua, which we began in 1986.
Yeah.
We are 100% humanic, and which means we are bettering the lives of human beings around the world. So it's a beautiful mission, and they've been around in the community for a long time, and that's the whole idea, the whole point of Indian River Connections, to connect people and places.
I believe too, like when I got here, everybody who was on staff was basically in the mission field.
Okay.
And so they would actually do 3-4 months down in Nicaragua on the Rio Coco River where the school is, and they have a coffee shop down there, and they work in the schools. They said the enrollment's like 1,200. It's been up as high as like 1,900.
Wow.
And a lot of the former students they had all gone to college, they have education degrees, specialties, and they're now teachers in the school system, in the schools that they provide for. So it's an amazing mission. Obviously the business is growing. They have the downtown location, and things have changed and developed as it's taken off, but the heart is always the same. And it's awesome. No
doubt. No, they got a downtown location, and you got out here by the airport in Vero Beach. So people that are local watching, check them out. Tell them that Indian River Connection sent you. We really appreciate them letting us use their room. It's a beautiful room. It's quiet. It's perfect for interviews like this, and hopefully we'll be able to use this moving forward and building the base of Indian River Connections, which is it's a collaboration of 3 podcasts: TGI Now, To The Point, and Binford Chronicles. So we thought
she did a lot of stuff with candidates, individual interviews and coverage, which is really cool.
Yeah.
I wanted to do some of that. Time sort of slipped away. When you're writing, it's like But in the future, there could be something once this campaign season calms down a little bit.
Exactly.
Which gets back into what I would like to do. I brought ultimately.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Ultimately, I'm thinking about doing a newspaper. You can probably hold it up to the camera.
Yeah. This is great. Yeah. Oh, is that DeSantis on there?
I had to put something in there. That would probably be an ad. So I'm looking to do something like that, and that's the masthead.
That looks good. Yeah. So Sunshine Journal, walking in the light, feeling out of sight. Feeling out of sight. I like that.
Come on, man. The 70s are here to stay.
Walking in the light, feeling out of sight. All right, I like that. Yeah, I mean that's like you said, this is this is what you're doing. You're bringing light to situations and
the
stories.
News writes itself, man.
Yeah, that's what you said, and it does, because everything is out there in the open now. Before there wasn't as much. The darkness is showing itself. So once you see a little bit of darkness, you go, oh, let me get that spotlight. Let me shine a little light on that. Because that's what happened with TGI Now Podcast when I started that with Eddie and Rondell, was to shine a little light on the darkness. Just to be like pointing out things for people to listen to. It's just ultimate truth. It's our truth. It's real, authentic truth talk. To the Point podcast, very similar to that. It's truth talk. They get to the point about their topics, and then Joanne Binford on Binford Chronicle is out there in the community, and she's doing interviews with candidates. She ran for office at county commissions, and and so people got that little touch, that little taste of what you did. She did the same thing, and then she started her own thing. You started your own thing. I started my own thing. We all became called to purpose, and so did To the Point. And I see that synchronicity, I see that synergy happening in our community, and I think it's going to only grow from here. The best is yet to come when it comes to all these platforms.
Oh yeah, and it's, I love this community because I'm just stunned how engaged it is.
Yeah.
I lived in D.C. People are engaged because they're paid to be engaged.
Yeah, that's true.
And they're paid to be, sit around federal employees for a while, and they talk a different language because they're always talking in acronyms. But
but you,
among other things.
Yeah, but you bring people on to do editorials as well. I've seen some articles that have been written by local people that I've seen at school board meetings, speaking their truth at school board meetings. Jennifer Pippin. Yep.
If you show this one here.
Yep.
Her letter to the editor.
Yep.
It's up here in the corner. So this is the page at Substack. If you click on the Sunshine Journal, you can go to the homepage, basically. But these are the most popular. She still is the most popular release I've had, and that's just because she's just another one of these people that I just have so much respect for.
Yeah.
She takes a lot of arrows, but the one thing that she does do is she believes in something and she goes for it.
Yeah.
And with the books, there's no mistaking it. They're wrong.
100%. Yeah.
I don't care what anyone says. Right. Come on. There are millions and millions of books out of there. Why do these particular ones with the pornography, what is the reason for them being in the library, and how are they banned?
Yeah, they're not banned.
They're not banned.
No, they've never been banned.
It's a curating. You should be picking the best literature. If you've ever read any of this stuff, just from a writing standpoint, forget what they actually say.
No,
just look at some of the stuff, and you're just like, this is the most fundamentally bland language I've ever seen.
Exactly. Yeah, and we talked about
it's not going to teach you English or expand your English.
Nothing. There's nothing there. There's nothing of substance there, but just polluting the mind, and that's what they don't understand, is that these books are polluting the kid's mind. It is getting them to feel a different way about themselves by reading, because words are spells. That's why we call it spelling. Words are spells. So when you read the words,
that's interesting take.
Yeah, because you're casting a spell. You're reading it to yourself. Because remember, when you read a book, you can read it out loud or you can read it to yourself. When you read it to yourself, your mind's eye has to develop a picture. Exactly. You can watch pornography and look at it and go, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, well, I can see it. But if I have to think it before I see it, then it's really going to sink in. Exactly.
It's going to even be worse for you.
100%. That's why it's so powerful. But
I mean, they're both absolutely bad for
100%. But if you really get down to it, that's why the books sneaked into the schools. That's why they trickled in there. It was all came from the top down, and that's why it got in there, because it wasn't being uncovered back then. And so now it's being uncovered, so now people are bringing light to it.
Dr. Moore admitted that. He said since 2014, nothing was vetted. That was early on.
Yeah, so that was all by design, see? So that was...
Whether it was by design or just overlooked.
Overlooked.
The government, there's a lot of overlook.
100%. And so
the video of the girl being thrown into the water is all about being overlooked.
Exactly. And so this is stuff that's not being overlooked. And I think that's where Indian River News and Sunshine Journal came into play, of stuff that's not being overlooked, things of that nature.
Yeah, and Jennifer Pippin saw it.
Yep.
Realized, it all started with her. She saw this viral video from New Jersey where that book All Boys Aren't Blue was in an elementary school and being read by a parent. She's like, this can't be happening here. So on a hunch, she just said, hey, where do I find out about... She didn't know where to go look for the library list.
She did the research. She asked questions.
She asked questions.
Exactly.
She'd make a great reporter.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, we're gonna have her. We're gonna have her in Interview Connections. I want to do an interview with her as well. We're gonna do that. Do a little bit more of in depth of where like you did. Why you decided to do this. What triggered you to get involved? What triggered you to get to I mean, you don't have any kids.
Some
of
the best people in politics right now were those who were 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago were apolitical.
Exactly. Yep.
They didn't care.
They didn't care. That's what she said.
They were raising their kids. They were doing whatever.
Yep. Now it's like, well, wait a minute, because I mean, how long you been in Vero now?
I've been here 10 years. Got here in 2014, but years. I've been actively engaged. I grew up in D.C., so you cannot walk out your door without being engaged in a political 100%. Discussion.
So you've already, like I said, you were already in that atmosphere. You're already in that.
Yeah, but I was more of a rock and roller than.
Yeah. No, that's great. Let's talk a little bit about the upcoming elections. I know you did some. I don't know if you did some endorsements on some.
I did school board endorsements.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a second, because the local listeners want to know, because the election's coming up August 20th. So let's talk about the school board endorsements.
Well, one of the things is before I started the Sunshine Journal, after my election, Jennifer Pippin approached me and she said, "Hey, would you like to be a director of Moms for Liberty?" Chris Allen. You know who Chris Allen is. Yeah. Chris Allen's an amazing woman. Yep. She's now homeschooling her son, and so she wanted to step back from the day-to-day. But she was the one, basically. She still does amazing curriculum review stuff for the school system. Okay. And as you know, if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't have had Amplify come in. And I believe with the math curriculum is the big one, where she went out and challenged all these people and the experts who submitted stuff to the state saying we need to use X over here, where she says, no, actually X is bad, here's why. You need to use Y. And I can't remember the names, that's why I'm using the letters. And her research shifted a whole state.
Wow.
And the math curriculum that everybody wanted, which had all the weird woke stuff in it, was tossed over one woman, one mother, taking care of business and getting down and doing the research, creating the stuff, building the as we like to say in the vernacular, getting the receipts.
Get the receipts.
To prove,
that's it.
To prove the facts.
Mm-hmm.
And and she as a result, like some 40 newspapers from around the country called her, including the New York Times, because DeSantis is making the education department of DeSantis at the time is making a decision to use a math curriculum based on the testimony of one person over the quote unquote experts.
Exactly.
Well, last time I checked, Chris Allen's a really good reader.
Yeah, she's very good. Yeah, she is. Yeah,
She's better than I am.
Yeah.
Because she had the patience to actually go out and do that.
Yeah. These are people that come out of the woodwork and they did the work and they brought stuff to the light, and that's what I saw, and when I was getting involved in the school board meetings and showing up and speaking my truth, was I saw them doing the research, finding the facts, and I'm watching them. I'm going, yeah, they're right. I need to go there and speak my truth too. I gotta step up and. So and
it's funny. So she's like, we want to join the board, and I did. Yeah. And so I said, well, I'll help you with policy and media. So I'm quote the policy and media director. And made a title. I've been on the board, and then it was like when Ryan stepped back in last September. There's that void there that people were depending on.
Yeah, no, because he was building he was getting them. He had some momentum going for sure. Definitely.
And people I was talking to, I'm like, it's going to be a lot of work.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
but I thought about it, and so in December, I pretty much launched it.
Yeah.
And from there, I still do the policy media for Moms for Liberty. But my journalism is basically independent of that. I agree with Moms for Liberty. No porn in schools. Yeah. It's really simple.
No masks.
Let's have good grades. Look, one of you look at the school system really started to turn. We talk about this A grade.
Yeah.
And we need to keep Dr. Moore A grade. And Dr. Moore is great.
Yeah.
I like Dr. Moore personally. I like him professionally. He's a hard worker. He's very innovative. He's very data driven. He gets it. He's not stupid.
Yeah.
And I think he's doing a fabulous job. I think what was happening politically is that you had these people that have never been challenged in their arguments.
Exactly.
And when the challenges came, they were found wanting. Mm-hmm. And the people who challenged him are people from Moms for Liberty and the rest of the community, saying, the porn being the most obvious.
Yeah, we're not doing this.
And but it really started back when, with the DSEG order, one of the things that the liberal majority at the time wanted to implement was that courageous conversations from the guy at I think it's called PSG. Anyway, but courageous conversations is basically the CRT professional development that, like, Loudoun County schools in Virginia spent $6 million on.
Wow.
And without any results. And he says, that's because you haven't defined your whiteness well enough.
Oh, jeez.
If you go read Luke Rosiak's book.
Oh, jeez. Oh, my goodness.
And so Jackie Rosario saw this in 2020 or early 21. I can't remember when they were starting the implementation. And she told me, she's like, I went to Dr. Moore, I said, define your whiteness.
Yeah. And he said, I can't.
And like, this is crazy. And so they got rid of it.
Yeah.
And people were doing this to appease so they could get to unitary status on the DSEG order.
Exactly.
And, the schools are integrated.
Yeah.
And so it started there. And Moms for Liberty not even around yet, but that thinking, that basic common sense.
Yep.
It's really what it is.
Because nothing makes sense.
You have to go much farther than that.
Yeah.
And it started there, and then the mass. Obviously, you're very familiar with that, having what happened to you.
Yeah, 100%.
And then, you watch those debates. I went back and watched all that stuff at the school board.
Yeah.
And then from there, right off the heels of that, you've got Peggy Jones basically believing the National School Board Association in 2021 when they coordinated with the White House to label parents domestic terrorists.
Yep.
So she comes back and says, we need to remove public comment out of the business meeting, because the business meeting, and I hate this, the business meeting is about the board business and our action items.
Yeah.
There's a thing in the First Amendment that says you have the right to redress your grievances with the government.
100%.
That's what public comment is.
Yep.
And that public comment happens within the gavel, inside the gavel. So you have, this meeting is called to order, gavel. Business.
Yes, exactly.
This meeting is adjourned, gavel.
Exactly.
All of that's business. And where does that public comment fall? It falls in there.
Yep.
And that's where you and I as citizens can redress our grievances to the school board.
Yep.
And they're like, well, we're going to put it over here outside the gavel. We're not going to record it. We'll take minutes.
Yeah. At the end, they want to do it at the end of the meeting.
Right. And then we'll do 30 minutes up front. And we'll do the rest of it on the other side for 2.5 hours.
Problem. Yeah, because it comes down to is they just don't want to be questioned. So people are asking questions.
But think about this. If it's outside the formal gaveling of business, is it really business?
It's not receipts.
Technically, no receipts.
No receipts, exactly. That's what they were trying to do.
But you got your free speech rights.
Yeah.
Did I?
No.
I may have been able to say what I wanted to say, but I didn't redress anything. One of the things that happened in that whole discussion during that time, the only example I use was when you went to the school board, and I think it was in February, March of that year, or 22.
Yep.
No, it was that prior to that year. And you had talked about how someone put over the water fountain the sign that said "for whites only" as a practical joke.
Yep. Oh yeah.
And I remember that I was like, unbelievable.
Oh yeah. I was sick to my stomach when I saw it, and I obviously brought it to the board, and I showed them all the pictures. I put a picture. I gave everyone a picture, and I said, "What is this? Why are we allowing this to happen? Like why?"
And the great thing about that was we came back next month, and guess what? Dr. Moore gave a report on how that was cured.
Yeah. Exactly.
Don't tell me it's not board business.
Exactly. And if I didn't bring it to their attention, they would have never known about it.
Exactly. And they dealt with it quickly.
They had to, because that was something that that's a serious thing. Like, we're making a joke of this now. Like, when are we're not in the 60s anymore.
You're redressing your grievance.
100%.
In the business.
Yep. Yeah.
Imagine now if that was outside the gavel.
Yep.
Minutes were taken, and nobody read it.
That's it. That would have been it. Yeah. And
that sign would have been there in the next month.
Yeah. They would have done it
and
again.
you would have been back and doing it outside the gavel going, how come you haven't fixed this?
Yeah. No receipt. No
receipts.
Yeah. And that's what it comes down to, and I think that's a lot of what's happening in the world today. Is a lot of the all these things that are happening. There's receipts. You can go back, go back to what the media said about the masks and whatever and blah blah blah, and you can see they were like, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that, and then all of a sudden you find out none of it was true, and it's like, oh man, all that was all not real, it wasn't true, and then oh geez, well we shouldn't have done that, we should have never done that, and it's like, well yeah, we tried to tell you that, don't comply. It's scary, it cost me a job, obviously speaking out at the school board meetings, but again, that's in the past, it's what needed to happen for people to be called to purpose, like we talked about before,
Yeah, and so I look at this school board race as that type of thinking versus common sense.
Yeah.
Moms for Liberty has endorsed Rob McCallum and Kevin McDonald. Kevin McDonald was appointed by the governor. Mm-hmm. There was a lengthy interview process. It took 6 weeks. Both candidates in District 5 were called. Brian Barefoot was actually called and said, who do you prefer? They asked for what he thought, the people who were doing the vetting. Yep. It wasn't unfair. Brian Barefoot resigned. He vacated the seat.
Thank goodness.
And you've got these media idiots around here making the claim that DeSantis is a tyrant. Lawrence Reitzman comparing it to some form of Nazi Germany.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. That's right.
I wrote about it, and I was like, "Are you serious?"
Yeah. Yep.
When you vacate the seat, effective immediately.
That's it.
It's to the authority.
That's it.
The school system. It's done deal.
Done deal.
Over. The governor doesn't have to tell you, doesn't have to acknowledge it.
No.
You vacated the seat.
That's it.
The governor now has a choice. Fill the seat or not fill the seat.
Yep.
And if you think he's putting you back since he's already decided, I don't want you there anyway.
Exactly. He already was
personally speaking, because you're not helping. You're not helping the state get to be improved in its education.
Not even close. Yeah. No, it was a blessing. It was such a blessing to happen again, and that's the turnaround. That's what you see. The shift is happening like that. Nobody would have thought that would have happened. Because again, Barefoot would have never ran for re-election if DeSantis didn't put him on that list of school board members that he was going to go after or whatever.
Right.
He would have never even ran for re-election, so we wouldn't be having this conversation.
He wasn't going to run for re-election anyway.
Exactly. He would have done it. He wasn't going to. Then also he was like, I'll show them, and then next thing you know, he's running, and then he quit.
Then he's interviewing people to
take his position because he didn't want to do it in the first place because his ego got hurt. Remember, they did the big front page article with him walking down the corridor of John's Island Club. It was pathetic. It just.
I don't remember that article.
Oh, you don't remember that? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I sort of do.
Oh, yeah. It was right on the. It was a big. He was walking down the corridor like this. I was like, oh God. I'm like this.
I always think about myself. Where do they get these White House portico pictures with our people in them?
I know. Yeah, I know. That's what it looked like.
John's Island.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. I was like, wow, look at that. I was like, look like the White House. I'm like, okay. Yeah, but that's the ego, and so
you and I should go over there and walk the portico and take pictures, right? If they let us in.
Yeah, maybe we'll do an interview over there. I don't think they'll let me in. I think I'm on a list over there, but
you're on a no-fly list.
I'm on a no-fly list at John's Island. Yeah, there's no fly there. They called the security guard said, "You see that guy over there?"
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, they're on a no-fly zone over there. I used to be allowed over there, not anymore, but yeah. So
pay your golf fees.
I know. But again, the endorsements, obviously, McDonald, obviously I know that he's the right man for the job, and DeSantis did the right thing for him. McCallum, I think he's gonna take Peggy Jones's position. Peggy Mount Rushmore is gonna be out the window. I don't think she's
Doc Rushmore.
Doc Rushmore.
That's your term, not mine. Yeah. I'm stealing it from the guy. I'm letting him know.
Well, when local journalists start to put labels on people and calling them the Mount Rushmore of education in Indiana County, and I'm thinking to myself, we don't have a Mount Rushmore.
Now you've been here 40 years.
I've been 40 years. I've never seen a Mount Rushmore
okay,
here.
there is a trash dump. I mean, I was in Tallahassee 2 days ago, and I can say this. Those are the mountains of Florida.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. And I just I've never seen a Mount
Rushmore. Wow, elevated.
Yeah, like just the thinking of it. It's like, wow, you think that person is so wonderful that you would put their face on a mountain. And I'm thinking to myself, wow.
Well, you've been here 40 years.
Yeah.
Who else is on the Mount Rushmore of?
Nobody I know.
River County education.
Yeah. I mean, that's, and these are the terms, again, like we talk about, the making up these terms, and it's trigger words. So when you put somebody up on a pedestal like that, it's very easy for the people that aren't paying attention to go,
they could have said they were one of the coconuts hanging from the tree.
Anything.
From the glorious tree.
Yeah, the coconut on the glorious tree of education in River County, but Mount Rushmore. And again, and when they use these terms as trigger words, so the people that aren't paying attention, they're going to say, well, I'm going to vote for Peggy Jones because she's the Mount Rushmore of education. So it's an easy trigger for people that are asleep to not see it and then vote for somebody like that.
Yeah, and I wrote an article on it, and I wrote an endorsement for school board, which is on the website, only because it's the one I know. I wanted to, in my own big thinking and trying to do this, I was like, I really wanted to get more into the commission races, but I don't know enough, and so. I'm one of these people, I got to get my head around something before I start really putting it down to paper. Yeah. Because things just start popping, and then I can organize my thoughts better. And so not knowing enough, it's a learning process, but I know schools very well. Yeah. I felt after I lost my election in 2022, I never thought that the war or the it's a battle and a battle and a fight.
The culture war.
Yeah, it's a battle and a fight. It's so you lose that. It's like, well, what can I do? Yeah. And then I took a couple months off from doing the activist side of stuff and came back and said, okay, this book thing's still going on. It's not over.
It'll never be over.
Even though in February they claimed it was over.
It'll never be over. And I said that from day one. I was like, this will always come up. It'll just constantly be an issue. It'll always be an issue.
It still is an issue now because,
it always will be.
Look, I understand the whole banning of books, but this isn't Nazi Germany. No. This is the United States of America. And at the end of the day, we're educating kids. We're not training them and indoctrinating them in porn.
Well, at least we would hope not, but that's what we found out. That's why the book slipped through the cracks, because of what you just said. That's why they got there. That's the way I see it.
And it's like, I was like, a kid read Lord of the Rings, they'll have a great grasp of the language when they're done. Yeah. And they'll see all these great metaphors and analogies. This is just one of many books that you could go to. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, genderqueer. Yeah. There's no metaphor and analogy. It's all up in your grill.
100%.
And you had a media guy in Russ Lemon sit there with Jennifer Pipp and said, well, we still need a professional to determine whether or not that's pornography.
Trust the professionals, yeah.
Trust the professional what?
Of who, yeah. And again, it comes down to, and I said this all the time.
That doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. Nothing makes sense. But it comes down to that it's a personal and it's personal and there's public. There's public health and there's personal health. There's personal choices of books and there's public choices of books. Like you said, these books can be in the library. They just need to be in a public library. That's it. That's all. That's it. They're not very simple.
They put 5 of them when they did that vote in February behind the counter. I called them the brown bag books.
Oh, that's a good idea. Brown bag. Wow.
You put the pornographic magazines in the grocery store so the kids can't see them.
Yeah. Wow.
They had 5 brown bag books.
Wow.
That you needed double secret permission for.
Yeah. And this is.
This is insane.
It is. It's nuts.
And I'm glad it's over.
Yeah. It'll
in that respect. Yeah. And so I'm for candidates
that don't
agree with that. Yep. That this shouldn't be the way it is, and books should be about educating kids. At the end of the day,
No, you're right.
You look at the obscenity statutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the other thing.
They're for the community as a whole.
Yeah.
They're for you and I, and kids as well. Yeah. But they're for the community as a whole, the marketplace, right?
The public. Yeah.
A school system is a cloistered community of students and those that mentor and educate them.
Yeah.
It's cloistered for the purpose of education.
Yeah.
It's not a marketplace.
Yeah.
It has a strict purpose. It's mandated constitutionally to teach kids, to educate. And that's what it's for. And so every piece of material that goes into a school is chosen for that purpose, or should be chosen for that purpose. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You can call it banning, you can call it whatever
you want.
That's the law, bro. Yeah. And
and that's what it comes down to. I mean, it's the law of the land. The Constitution is the
Florida Education Standard.
All of it. It's all
written in statute.
That's it. And that's what Jackie Rosario is very good at. Is she makes sure she goes and checks the statute. She goes back and she does her homework and she backs it up with facts, and that's what you want in a school board member. That's what you want in any kind of public.
That's why I like Kevin McDonald.
Yeah, Kevin
McDonald will be there, and there were 40 comments at the last meeting on whatever, and he's just scribbling away, taking notes. I said, I asked him later. I said, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm listening to their comments and I'm writing it down."
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's like, him and his wife are just mission-oriented people.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what.
Whatever the mission's put in front of them, they execute it.
Exactly.
And he did 7 years of a classical school in New York City.
Yeah.
Ran it out of the Presbyterian Church, and he was part of the leadership of that church as well. But he didn't get paid a dime. Mm-hmm. Managed $15 million, whatever it was. And he was the treasurer and then president. Yep. Like the 4th or 5th year in, they moved down here, and he was flying back and forth. Yeah. And he did it for a total of 7 years. Yep. And so, because the mission was that important to him.
Exactly. And that's what it's all about.
And that's why, he's a guy who's going to be here all year round.
Mm-hmm. He's not going to be
He's not a snowbird.
He's not going to sleep during the meetings. He's not going to fall asleep.
No, he's not going to phone it in.
Nope.
Or zoom it in.
Nope, none of it.
And so when he's zooming it in, he's not going to be on the phone with someone else.
Yep.
Not to say that Dyer's going to do that.
Yeah, but I see that him being
the guy who endorsed him did.
Yeah, exactly. That makes total sense. If the guy that endorsed him did, they kind of sort of figured this guy probably will too. So for the folks watching, just giving you a heads up, that's going to be the path you're going to take. For the sheriff's meeting, and we're going to close up here a little bit. I think we're about an hour, Mike. The sheriff's meeting, sheriff's race. Where do you see that, just in your personal opinion?
Oh my gosh, I'm like everybody else.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
This is going to be tight.
Yeah.
In my view. I love Milo Thornton.
Yeah.
He's a wonderful man. Milo came to one of my meetings. I'm the president of the Republican Club of Indian River. We had a lady who, about 83 member, and she was eating some snacks and she started choking and literally collapsed in her chair, slumped over.
Oh, wow.
Milo just took control.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm over there, I'm a Christian believer. I'm over there just praying.
Yeah,
My wife's there. She's praying. People are freaking out. This lady's on the floor. Her heart stopped.
Wow. Huh.
She was resurrected in our meeting.
Wow.
And it was Milo leading a team of 2 other men, or 2 or 3 other people, got her revived.
Wow.
But she was resurrected in our meeting. She got up. The ambulance showed up. They put her on the gurney, and she was sitting at the door. She's like, "Get me off this thing and let me go back in. I want to hear the speaker."
Wow.
She was
good to go.
She was good to go.
Wow.
They're like, "No, you got to." Her care person was there.
Yeah.
And said, "Hey, go to the hospital, get some observation."
Yeah, you're better off. Yeah.
She's like, "Well, I want to see the speaker." She was perfectly fine. I personally believe it was a miracle in as much, but it was a miracle in so many ways. And Milo was part of that miracle, and I just watched him do what he did, and I was like, this guy he's a policeman at heart.
Yeah.
That being said, there's Keith, and Keith Touchberry has been a guy who's this same type of person. These guys can just, in a second, jump into action.
Yep.
They have training that is way beyond the scope.
Second to none. Yeah.
If Milo's not there that night with those 2 or 3 other
Yeah,
people.
they could be dead.
But particularly Milo,
Yeah.
she might not have survived.
100%. Yeah. No. Those are good things. Those are the stories you have to tell. These are the things that listeners and viewers want to hear. What they're like as a moment of action, because that's where I'm looking at when it comes to the sheriff's race. It's who's going to have the community's back.
There's a lot more going on here, in terms of leading a department and all these different things. I thought the debate, Keith flat out won that debate. He understands what's going on. He's the one who brought the issues of the sheriff's department to the forefront and really defined it clearly. And his, 35, 40 years or whatever it is in policing. After Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, he wrote a program called FIRTUS. FIRTUS is a response in these types of situations like that happened at Parkland. It's a curriculum. He's got a master's in criminal justice. And so he wrote it and he presented it to the Florida Department of Education. He's even presented it to the U.S. Congress. That FIRTUS curriculum now, wherever there's an education certificate being offered in the college systems of the state of Florida, FIRTUS is a part of that curriculum to train, to have teachers prepared how to respond in any of these types of situations. And, and so there's great qualities in those two. We've seen the way the sheriff's department's run now. The budget thing is a big concern with me, because essentially at the last budget request, Eric Flowers is basically asking the county to raise taxes to fund whatever he's doing.
Wow.
And and he says 75 cents of every dollar goes to staff. That's true. In the budget, in the forecasting of it. I've looked at the numbers. I've seen the data. I've got all the public records requests for it, and that's the way it's allocated. But the reality of it is Milo and both Keith have both said there's hiring shortfalls. A lot of positions going unfilled. Keith brought it up again to the tune of about 5.8 million or whatever it was. I wrote about it here at the Sunshine Journal. And then that money gets spent elsewhere. So while it says 75%,
where else it's going? That makes
do we
sense.
actually spend on people, or are we buying?
Well, I think
and Daryl Lorry even said, he goes, I'm glad you're taking care of the people. The cars can wait.
That's
what he said.
That makes sense, because we have
so we have to understand how these, we have budget forecasts, and how's the money really going? Where's it going? And there's some insight there that was presented at that debate. I think Keith is ready for leadership. Me personally, I think Milo's a great leader too, but I that's just where I'm at.
I mean, that makes sense, because you're giving personal examples of Milo, you're giving personal examples of Keith.
And it's very hard to just. Well, I like them both.
And then we have the receipts for the current sheriff with the current regime. So we have receipts. We know what's going on there.
If the receipts were different,
then it might even be even closer.
Erica's a guy. He's just been the nicest person to me always. I, as a news guy, I just have to be a news guy.
That's it.
If Keith gets in there, or Milo gets in there, or Eric stays, I'm still writing stories.
100%.
Right? I'm not here to be liked or disliked. I'm here to just call what I see.
Call what you see. What did you say? You said, walking in the light, feeling out the sight. Feeling out of sight.
Walking in the light, feeling
out of sight. That's it. Well, thanks so much for taking your time to be here. Thanks to Rio Coco for letting us use their space. It's a beautiful place. If you're here in Vero, come by and see them. So tell them the Indian River Connection sent you.
Mike's coming back, right, Mike?
Yeah. He's got his coffee. He's happy. His smoothie. It's good food here. There's good smoothies. It's a great atmosphere. It's a great meeting area. So give them a try if you don't know about it. Come by and see them. Tell them Indian River Connection sent you. And we're going to follow with some more interviews. I'm sure we'll be doing another one with you again soon. Follow up.
This is fun.
Yeah, this is good. And like I said, we're building a platform for people to speak. To connect people with places. We're connecting you with Rio Coco and other places that we'll be doing interviews. So I mean, we're just building a platform to try to inform the community, give them another outlet.
I think it's great. I mean, you guys highlighting businesses that have been here, true local business. and all this stuff, and getting them some exposure that they may otherwise not get.
Yep.
And just turning it into something where, because this community is special.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I lived here my whole life pretty much, and and I want to do something. I've always given back to this community where I worked in nonprofit and different different things of that nature. And I think that this is just another opportunity for me to use my talents and Mike and from To The Point and Joanne and my crew at TGI Now Podcast to show our talents and to do what we were called the purpose to do.
Cool.
All right.
Well,
Thank you
great,
so
man.
much, brother. I appreciate you.
You
Good
too.
luck to you, man. All right, so we'll catch you guys on another interview. Thanks for coming in and watching our video, and please share it as well, and just check out In Your Connections and check out our website. All right, thank you.